What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another GGF video, and today I'll be taking a look at the X870 AORUS Stealth Ice motherboard. So this is AORUS's first AMD X870 based stealth board. They had their, well, stealth being their back connect. They had their previous one, which I don't think was even sold in the US. This was based on the B650E chipset. I actually imported this from Germany. This was probably one of my favorite back connect boards out there. We'll compare this one to the new one in just a second. So what we'll do is, I haven't even opened this one yet. Oh, this is very, very heavy. I don't know what AORUS are putting in their boxes and their motherboards, but they are super, super heavy. I recently checked out their new Master X3D Ice, and that was just as heavy, but this box is even larger. Let me see if I can, or is there an actual one on the other side? There is. Okay, take the top off. Like, this is really nice packaging, and you may be surprised at the price of some of these AORUS boards. I'll cover that in a little bit. I did expect it. Whoa, that is, what's that? Let me spin this around so we can get that on centered on camera. So when you open this up, got like the whole AORUS logo there. You get this little 3M AORUS sticker thingamajig there, and then you open it up like that. It's like one of those pop out or pop up cards. Now I cannot get that back together. Anyway, we don't need to because I can take the board out. Let's see if there's anything else inside. Everything's nicely packaged, some stickers, Wi-Fi antenna, and that's really it. Oh, there we go. Now it's back together. Let's have a look. Put this one here. Put the previous one over here. Let me quickly take some peels off. 1, 2, 3, 4, and none on the rear IO. I think that's all of them. Might be a few random ones. So previous B650E, this one, and now we have the newer X870. Both of these being AORUS's back connect stealth motherboards. Have a look at the back. There's film on the back. I won't take that off just so it doesn't scratch. And then, God, this one's just as heavy as well. So straight away I can see they beefed up the power delivery from a single 8 to an 8 and a 4. And then everything else looks relatively similar because there's not too much difference in terms of these chipset and board layouts and so on. I'll compare the, oh, that just popped off. I'll compare the rear IO when I get round to doing that. So yeah, I'm really liking all of these new stealth and ice boards that are coming from AORUS. They're not just like throwing a bit of a white PCB and some white heatsinks. They're really making everything as white as possible. Like, you can even see the changes they've done from, I would say this is probably 2 years old now, from the 2-year-old version to the new one. This one actually have removed the brackets from around the CPU plate because this was water blocked, but I do believe these were black on here. These ones are white, not like you're really going to see them. DIMM slots are white. Around the back, the connectors don't really matter so much on a back connect board because you're not going to see them, but they are white. These ones were white as well, but even on their normal front connector boards, they're matching all of them to white. Everything is just working in nicely. So main differences here, we have the extra slot, but I don't want to sort of compare too much because we got obviously previous generation board and a different chipset. So I'll move, actually before I move this out of the way, just want to talk about the board aesthetics. And I hate to say it, but I don't know about you guys, but I do prefer how this board looks. And I think this one was actually a little bit more expensive when it came out than this one. We still have a lot of the quick release latches, which I'll talk about, but this one just had some features. Like, look at that. These are the screw holes to mount it into your case. Just this simple magnetic strip that just went on like that, even went over the EZ latch. This one here, a metal cover that just covered, I don't even know why you even needed that, just covered that nice. It probably didn't even need to be removed, I don't think, but it was just a nice cover to do that. This one doesn't have that. It doesn't have this wraparound cover Like this wraparound cover here that just went over everything, just made it something different. It just made the whole board uniform, like it was one solid piece. Now it's just broken up. You've got like obviously the VRM cooling, you've got a cover over here, and then you've got the bottom M.2 area where this one was just super nice. I really wish they kept this same design and moved it over here, but moved it into this new model. But I think that's really it for that comparison there. All right, let's move down. Main feature I want to get out of the way are the X3D Turbo modes. If you looked at my recent video on the Master X3D Ice, that was the turbo mode 2.0. This has AORUS's older turbo mode, might be 1.0 or just turbo mode. It's meant to give you about an 18% uplift in gaming with when it's enabled. It uses AI powered BIOS feature as it adjusts the process core configuration, and it does things like disabling the CCDs or the secondary CCDs, not all of them obviously, and then SMT as well. So whether or not that's going to benefit you in gaming, you can test it, try it with it on, try it with it not, see how it goes. Some of the AORUS name conventions on their devices, they have their PCIe EZ latch, which is this one here. Now on the Master X3D, obviously the X3D boards in the naming convention, this one doesn't have it. That's their latest boards. That had a different type of release latch altogether. This is the hold down one. So you hold it down, pull your card out, it releases it back. That board had the 2-stage button. You push it down and it was constantly unlocked. You push it again and then it locks it. And I think that one was a little bit better because you can permanently have your slot unlocked. You can put cards in and out, and then you can lock it when you're done. Then we also have the M.2 EZ Flex. Sounds a little bit weird, but that's just how they're calling it. And that's just this slot here. And then this will come out like that. And I do like how this locks into those two little points there, and then you push it all the way down like that, and that's locked it in. So other features on this board, postcode debug LED there, that is white, that's good, it's not black. And I'm pretty sure these will be white as well. I'll see if I can find a photo online rather than red, which I think is going to be pretty new than what we've seen before. Actually, I can probably just look that up now just to see so I don't forget. Yes, so that is white. I went online, found a random YouTube video where someone had this in a system, and that is white. That is really good because normally when I do a custom build, I set it all up and there's nothing worse than having a glaring red. Sometimes you can change it, or not change it, but you can turn it off. That's the next resort. If I'm doing a stealthy build or something like that, you can turn it off, but you can never change the color. But I think white is perfect for this board. Power reset buttons, we have a few here. Power reset, and then we have another extra one there, which you can probably set in the BIOS. The master board, I recently looked at the new one, had it on the rear, which I thought was really sweet. But this one obviously being more of I wouldn't say lower end, but a more affordable board, it has it over here. Power delivery is 16 plus 2 power solution. You can see it all there. No things like a thin stack array, anything like that. I don't think we need it. This isn't really aimed at being a super high end board, although just feeling it, the quality of it does feel really high end. And moving down to memory, looking at 4 DIMMs up to 256. That's a standard 4x64 gig modules up to 8200 mega transfers. Obviously AMD, you want to stick around 6064, get some good latency memory. Now the PCIe configuration, we have the 2 slots as I mentioned earlier on the B650E, the previous Stealth. I know a few people are complaining that it only had 1 slot, but I think that just looks so good. How good does that look with just having, like, it's not hidden or anything. There's no like hidden slot. It's just completely only 1 slot. So it's just going to come down to you whether you think you're going to need another slot in the future. But having this one here, it just breaks up that whole aesthetic. Primary by 16 slot is Gen 5, of course, and that is not shared with anything else because there's not a secondary PCIe slot that's connected to the CPU. Just this one is running off the CPU. The second full-size 16 is locked at PCIe 4, and that is a Gen 4 slot. Now, something to take note with this bottom one is it is shared with one of the M.2 slots, and I will talk about that in a second when I look at the M.2 configuration. So I just took that off like that. Very simple. Don't need any screws. It just locks in straight like that, and then you just push it down and it locks it in. And then we do have all of our thermal pads underneath. So for the M.2 configuration, a total of 4 slots, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can see we have 2 Gen 5, which is this one here, this one here. You can normally tell it says Gen 5, of course, and it does have the little silver cap over the connector. And then these ones both connect to your CPU. And this is the M.2A underscore CPU and M.2B underscore CPU. So Aorus's naming convention is a little bit different, but it does make sense having the underscore CPU or the underscore SB for the other ones that run at Gen 5, and those ones connect to your chipset. Now, something I do want to make note, this was the same as the previous Aorus board, the Master X3D Ice. I checked out that the 2 USB 4 Type-C ports are shared with the M.2B underscore CPU connector. So this one here, M.2B underscore CPU. So when a device is installed in this one, both this connector or this M.2 and the USB ports operated up to PCIe Gen 5 by 2 mode. So instead of running it by 4 for this one normally, and then whatever the USB runs at, both run it by 2. So you can configure the M.2B underscore CPU connector to run at PCIe 5x4 in the BIOS. However, you will lose the USB 4. So to me, that is a pretty big trade-off. So you're going to lose USB 4 if you configure that in the BIOS to use this slot. So primarily, you're going to want to use this one, Gen 5, Gen 4, Gen 4. Don't touch this one if you want to continue using your USB 4. So something to take note on that might get overlooked when you pick up this board. Now for the other 2 M.2, they're connected to the chipset, M.2C, SB, and then M.2D underscore SB. And these ones can take slightly longer, 22110 M.2s, not just your traditional 2280, which is the top one. And also this bottom one can also take a longer 22110 SSD as well. And then I do want to mention that the PCIe by 4 slot, there is a little bit more sharing. I always talk about sharing on these boards because not every board, or I actually don't think any board, I would say, is share free. Everything shares with something. It's just the way it's done. It's just the way how this platform works. Intel, AMD, something is also shared. So the bottom by 4 Gen 4 slot shares bandwidth with the M.2D underscore SB. So I'm just trying to see which one is the M.2D. So this one here. So if you put a card in this one, you will lose this one, and then vice versa. You put an M.2 in this one, you will lose this bottom slot. So just keep that in mind if you want to max this board out. For network, we're looking at a Realtek 5 gigabit LAN chip there. And for the Wi-Fi, it's a little bit different. We're running a Qualcomm Wi-Fi 7, and once again, the 320 megahertz channel bandwidth for that improved speed. Most of, I believe, the Wi-Fi 7s have been MediaTek, so different that they've gone with Qualcomm. And once again, we also have the Wi-Fi EZ plug that clips straight in there. And then this is also magnetic to throw in your case so it doesn't flop around, and then you can just push that or pull that straight off without having to screw it in. Moving on to the rear USB, total of 13 ports here. Quite a lot here. Let me know on this color scheme, would you like everything just to be white, or do you prefer color coded for, say, like USB 5, USB 2, USB 10 to be red? But then again, all the brands do different colors, so it's not really a color scheme you can just get used to that everything's going to work. To me, I think just having a clean slate of everything white would look really good. All right, so in terms of the rear USB, you actually have 2 USB 40, which is pretty good. Like, this board isn't super expensive to me, I think. So having the dual USB 40 is pretty decent. Then we have a single USB 10, and that's a Type-C. So you got 3 Type-C all up, 2 40s, 1 10. Then we have 2 USB 10 Type-A, which is this one and this one. We have 4 USB 5 gigabit, which are Type-A, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're the blue. Don't get confused that this one says USB 3.2. These ones say USB 3.2. Had to check this online and confirm. The 2 reds are 10, the 4 blues are 5, and then the 4 whites are USB 2.0. So they clearly say 2.0. So that's a total of 13. Plenty of USB I/O on that. But yeah, let me know about the color scheme, what you think would look best. And then for the front I/O, which actually isn't on the front side of the board, it's around the back, being stealth, being back connect. We have a total of 7, pretty much standard. We have your single 20 gigabit Type-C connector, no fast charging power delivery from what I can see. Didn't say it on the specifications, doesn't have the extra power for it. That's your standard 20 gig USB front panel connector there. A single, not dual, I was just checking that, single USB 3 5 gig header. That'll give you your 2 USB 3. And then we also have your dual USB 2 headers for like your fan controllers, RGB hubs and so on. That'll give you a total of 7, which is pretty much standard. And then we can get a better look on the back for everything like your fan connectors. Just looking at all the ARGB, we got 1, 2 there, then we have 3 there, then your older. Does anyone even use the older 4-pin RGB? I always call that RGB, and I call the newer ones ARGB, which are the 3-pin. I'm just wondering if manufacturers could start dropping off the 4-pin if you don't need it, but if it's not really going to cost anything, might as well just leave it on. Now, looking at graphics, I covered this on the master board. I'll cover it again, that the dual USB, you might be wondering, well, there's no DisplayPort. Well, there is, because you can run DisplayPort over the USB 4 because it has DP there, and you can run that through your integrated AMD graphics. Obviously, you're not going to be doing gaming, anything too crazy, but if you've got a secondary screen, a 4K screen, that'll run up to 240 Hertz. So you can get 3840 by 2160 at 240 Hertz. Now you might be like, well, why would I do that? Well, not so much to game on, but if you have a secondary screen above your primary, if you have all your Hertz matching, your mouse is going to feel the same on all the monitors. But if you have something like your top monitor being 60 Hertz, you're going to feel the difference going from your primary to your secondary. So the fact that it can do that high Hertz at that high res, if you have a 4K screen, that is pretty good. And then of course we have HDMI that does true 4K, which is 4096 by 2160, but that only does 60 Hertz. On the back, while I'm still here, there's actually no BIOS flashback on the back, and there's no clear CMOS. There is a BIOS indication on this USB, so that's where you would put the BIOS flashback onto the USB port. So it's probably going to be somewhere else. It might even be this button over here. Let me know what your thoughts. Do you really want them on the back? I think the amount of times that you do it every so often, I have the theory, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it. I never update my BIOSes unless there is something wrong or I know there's going to be an improvement. I don't just regularly always update them. Of course, there could be security patches, things like that, but I'm not going to be regularly updating my BIOS if there's nothing wrong. So having it inside probably isn't too much of an issue. Now, lastly, I think that is it. Lastly, looking at price, we're looking at $309 US. Now that is pretty good. I think the previous one I actually imported at Germany, excluding like import costs and shipping. I think this was more. I think this was like 380 or something like that. Maybe the extra cost you're paying for the extra aesthetics around the side or things like that. But you got to remember, like, none of this is plastic. This isn't plastic. This is all solid. I believe on the previous one it'd be nice if you could put that over, but it actually doesn't. That's for this one, obviously, because you're going to block that slot. But yeah, all this is solid, and that's probably why it's upside down. That's why you've got all of that extra weight. This here is solid. This is solid. A little bit of plastic on here, but it is a really well sort of designed, heavy constructed board. But 309, I think that is a really good price, and that's making it one of the most affordable. I think MSI are the only ones that have their Project Zero, I think like 250, 260, but then those boards feel nowhere near the weight of these ones, and those have the full cover, but most of that is plastic on those boards. But anyway, I do want to thank AORUS for sending this out. They sent the master, they sent this one. I've got another non-ice to check out, but I will be using this one in an upcoming Corsair build. They do have a case coming out. We saw it at Computex. Everyone is waiting to see that. I think this will look really good with that back connect in that motherboard. But anyway, like always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.